All right, let's move straight to London for update on developments there. Juliana will update us on that. Good morning, Juliana.
Good morning, Chimeze.
Well, some companies in London are beginning to take precautionary measures against the coronavirus. Some have asked their staff to work from home. But why are they doing this even after Public Health England had advised there is no need to send staff home as most possible cases turn out to be negative?
Well, Chimeze, this is an unprecedented challenge and it's moving with every second. Just before I came into the studio, it was confirmed that two more cases of coronavirus has been found in England, which brings up the number to about 15. Also as well, the FTSE 100 this morning has literally plummeted. It's fallen to its lowest level since 2018. So really now, at the moment, the equities markets, not just in Europe, but particularly in the UK, are in a frenzy because what we've also found out from the World Health Organization yesterday evening is that there are more cases growing outside of mainland China than they are within mainland China. Going back to the story yesterday, 300 workers from the London headquarters of the US oil giant Chevron were sent home, and that's because one of their workers who had arrived back from northern Italy had developed some flu-like symptoms. Like I said, there are two more confirmed cases. We don't know if one of those confirmed cases are linked to Canary Wharf. But if you talk about Canary Wharf and that densely populated area in London, there are over 100,000 people that work there. And typically, if you work in trade, you travel across the world. So they're being very careful. Also, as well, to add to the fears, yesterday there was a leaked government memo which described what would happen in a worst case scenario. And within this worst case scenario, they predict that up to 80% of the British population could indeed be infected with COVID-19 and that 500,000 people could die. That is a worst case scenario, but that was in a government memo. 13 schools across England are also closed. A lot of these schools are public schools where a lot of the children have come back from Italy from skiing because, of course, we've just had a half term. So, yes, there is a lot of panic, but the panic does appear for some people to be necessary just because of the sheer amount of spread, which is what we've been seeing in Italy over the past couple of days.
Well, irrespective of those panic there, some businesses in the UK are also gaining from it. Now, retailers who ordinarily will prefer to buy from China are beginning to look inward. How happy is the British manufacturer?
You know, they are quite happy. Of course, with every negative case, there's always a positive, and the positive is manufacturers that have really struggled over the past few years, purely because everybody gets their items in China, particularly textiles. They've reported that they're seeing a surge in orders purely because it just takes so long to get bulk orders in from China. Sometimes it takes about 3 to 4 months if your items are large enough to be shipped. And they're saying that now a lot of people are worried, they're panicking, and they're getting mass orders, so much so that they're having to recruit other staff. So this is absolutely brilliant for UK manufacturing, but not just UK manufacturing. I was having a discussion with somebody yesterday, and they were saying that as well as, people making the masks, which are, of course, in high demand, not just in mainland China, but across the world, also online streaming services. You know, if you can't leave your apartment or your property, like many people who were stranded and quarantined in certain areas in Spain, you'll be going into Netflix or Amazon or any of the other competitive streaming sites because there's nothing to do all day. Or, of course, you could eat or read, which, whichever tickles your fancy, really.
I guess in every situation, some gain, some lose. Anyway, there's this report that shows buy now, pay later services for online shoppers are now growing and growing at 39% a year. How worrisome is this development, particularly as it concerns young people who may be getting into debt?
Well, it's pretty worrying because, you know, the age-old saying is if you can't pay for it now, what makes you think you can pay for it in 30 or 60 days? And that's exactly what's happening with a lot of these new, young, competitive buy now, pay later services, and they're really targeted at Gen Z, so young people who don't want to get into long credit card agreements, and they just want that pair of jeans and that pair of top. It's a huge industry, and it's growing. And according to the latest government figures, it is the fastest growing payment method in the UK. But there are some concerns, of course, if you're especially young and you're buying a top and you're paying a further increase on that in charges and you can't afford it. Of course, this affects your borrowing much later in life, and there have been some agencies that are put in place for parents who are concerned about their children, and they've received an influx in phone calls complaining about a lot of these sites. Klarna, that's one of the main ones. That's a Swedish buy now, pay later agency that has over 7 million customers here in the UK. And like I said, they're all under 30. But what is worrying is just how fast this method is picking up. But there are agencies in place at the moment. So if anybody does have any concerns, there are measures to tackle it and to prevent your children or yourself from falling into serious debt.
Well, I guess parents should be up to that. Anyway, thank you, Julian. I'm sure you will give us more update later in the day.